How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Greetings and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. If you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, all that. More importantly, if you text Army, and I want to encourage you, I'm not going to spam you, I'm not going to sell your information, anything like that. If you text Army to 33777 and fill out the form, just don't need your phone number, just your email, your zip code, your name. The reason why is as we start doing more stuff around the country, we want to be able to invite you to events. As we take the gathering around the country, as we do activist items like call members of Congress, be able to shoot you an email and say, hey, here's an issue, you can take action. Want to be able to grow that information. We used to have a lot of your information. We moved to a new system, and some of that information was lost. So if you text Army to 33777, you can help build up our ability to be able to reach out to you when we come to events and stuff. Now, I got to move on to Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve because this is actually big news. He signaled today, so they do an annual meeting, a retreat, if you will, and he decided his quote is, "The time has come for policy to adjust. The direction of travel is clear, and the timing and pace of rate cuts will depend on incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risk." So they're in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It's an annual retreat the Fed does out there, and the chairman of the Federal Reserve clearly saying interest rate cuts are coming. The question is when? Will it be September? Will it be December? The odds are September. In fact, a majority of the members of the Federal Reserve Board have been surveyed and said they're ready to start cutting rates in September. We don't know by how much. And so here's the problem. And let me explain the dynamic of the Federal Reserve. So for the longest time, the Federal Reserve's goal, their central policy core, was to keep inflation down to a 2% increase. Some inflation is good. As goods and services prices go up by 2%, your wages can go up correspondingly over time, or to some degree also increase beyond that 2%. When inflation becomes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, as it had been, your wages do not go up as much, and you wind up with less and less take-home pay. Even as your wages may go up, you may get a pay raise, but it's still not enough because prices have gone up so much. So inflation is not a bad thing. A little bit of inflation is actually good for the economy. It's the massive inflation we've had that's very bad for the economy, and the inflation in places like Venezuela or Argentina has been disastrous. The markets have responded accordingly. The markets are up today. The Dow rallied, NASDAQ, everything has rallied because of his remarks. We just don't know when, although the speculation is September. We don't know by how much, probably a 1/4 to a 1/2 percentage point decrease from where it is right now. Probably not a whole point. Nobody's really expecting that. They expect a gradual approach. There's still incoming data that they want to see. The problem here is, and this gets back to the two policy flanks of the Fed, they like to keep inflation about 2%. In their estimation, their metrics, it's at 2.5% right now, but trending down. The problem is, years ago, Congress gave the Federal Reserve another mandate. That's to maximize employment in the country. So they have competing mandates. Mandates is probably the better word than pillar or policy flanks, whatever. They've got two mandates from Congress: keep inflation low, keep employment high. The problem is sometimes those mandates conflict with each other. The way the Federal Reserve has interpreted its mandates in the past is that the mandate on inflation comes first because the mandate on inflation is primary to an optimal economy. If inflation gets too high or we have deflation, you have massive unemployment over time. Now we've got a situation where unemployment is clearly rising, some of it because people are returning to the workforce in search of work, and that's caused the number to go up, and some of it because there are layoffs happening, particularly in places like California, the fast food industry and the like. Layoffs are happening. So the Fed's got to balance all that out. So their position now, their stated position is that because inflation is now down around 2.5% or so, they can begin to engage on the employment mandate of the Fed to maximize employment in the country. That requires a rate cut to begin to stimulate the economy. Now, obviously, there are political implications. There have been predictions of a recession, and all the indicators are we're headed into a recession, and many of you feel like we're already in the recession. The employment numbers were revised downward by 818,000 jobs that turned out not to have been created in the last year. That's a big red flag for them, as for everyone else, and you've all known this. I can tell you, like, for example, so I'm broadcasting from Jacksonville, Florida today, Namor's Children's Hospital, the WOKV, my affiliate down there, and my parent company, Cox Media Group, they do a big fundraiser for them every year, raising money just like I do in Atlanta for Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. They asked if I'd come down and support them, so I'm doing my 3 hours with you guys, then I'm doing 3 hours with them, trying to help them raise some money, fly home late tonight, back to Atlanta from Jacksonville tonight, get home, sometime around 11 or 12 tonight. Fun day, but charitable giving is down. Now, when we did our Carathon, I talked to you guys, my flagship station in Atlanta, we actually raised over $2 million. A lot of people gave. But I'm talking to more and more nonprofits around the country, and they're all telling me giving's down. Talked to a couple of pastors who've said giving in their churches has been down somewhat as well. They've had to ask people to step up because people are struggling. Costs are so high. So it feels like we're already in a recession, even if the data says we're not, but then the data told us that there were more jobs created. I don't think that they can cook the books as much as some of you think, because we have public and private data, and the private data can correct the public data, and then the public data is forced to do annual corrections, which is why this annual correction happened now. If they were cooking the books, they either wouldn't have corrected or they would have waited until after the election. But still, the problem remains. We do have the situation where we do have an economy that for most people doesn't feel like it's working. I mentioned flying down this morning to Jacksonville, sitting on the plane next to a guy named AJ who runs a business in Norfolk, Virginia that rebuilds and paints ships, refurbishes ships. And he was talking about his business. The costs have gone up and the business is going down. He says, one, it's hard to find qualified people to work. But two, it's the government is not spending as much on naval refitting and rebuilds. And the private sector is having a hard time keeping up because everybody's hurting. Nobody has faith in the economy right now. The only people who seem to think the economy is doing well are the Democrats running on the economy doing well. But nobody feels it. The private sector for sure doesn't. If the Federal Reserve cuts rates in September, that will begin to boost the economy. Democrats, of course, will seize on that. You can't help but turn it into a political issue in a presidential campaign cycle. It's one of the reasons the Trump campaign needs to be as aggressive on the economy right now and grocery prices right now, because here's the thing. Even if interest rates go down, they're not going to go down to where they were. They're only going to go down a little bit. Your credit card interest rate is still going to be very high. Your mortgage interest rate is still going to be very high. Your car payment interest rate is still going to be very high. Not as high, but it's still going to be high. All of this bakes into an economy where it looks like things are improving, but for you, it still doesn't feel like you've improved. It still feels like you're behind. And the media will massage it and say, well, help is coming, help's on the way, the economy's improving. So the Trump campaign, to the extent they can right now focus on the economy, would actually be a good thing. And remind people that Kamala Harris hasn't done anything. Jerome Powell might have cut interest rates, but Kamala Harris hasn't. And Kamala Harris has promised to bring grocery prices down, but Kamala Harris has been there for 3.5, 4 years. She hasn't done it. There's a messaging opportunity for the GOP. I had a funny exchange this morning with some friends. A buddy of mine, in fact, let me read you his text message. Why isn't the Trump campaign just blasting away on the left, saying that they're bankrupting Social Security and that Trump's going to make sure people don't lose their retirement? Seems like simple campaign warfare. And my response is, why isn't the Trump campaign probably the most typed and spoken phrase on the right these days. Why isn't the Trump campaign doing X? Why isn't the Trump campaign doing Y? I follow a tech blogger, John Gruber, writes a blog called Daring Fireball, and he does these bits where he talks about spending Tim Cook's money. The blog is dedicated to Apple, all things Apple and the tech industry. It's very, very insightful. He's a very nice guy, a great writer. He was one of the guys who stepped out, gave up a career in tech to become a blogger back when I was doing it. So I've always admired the guy. We disagree a lot on politics, but just he's a good guy, writes well. And he talks about why spending Tim Cook's money. Why doesn't Apple do X, Y, and Z? Why doesn't the Trump campaign? You're spending Trump's money. Why doesn't the campaign do what I want it to do? They're doing more and more of what I personally want them to do, but also I do have to remind myself on occasion I'm not in the campaign. I definitely think they're listening. I mean, and a number of you have noticed things I've said have suddenly been going on in the campaign. I know people pay attention, but I also do have to remind myself and others when you say, why isn't the Trump campaign doing something or other? Well, you're not in charge of the campaign. They do have a plan. They have to execute the plan, and Trump, at the end of the day, is ultimately the executioner of his plan. He either executes it well or kills it off. He's the guy in charge. We do have to remember that. But with interest rates probably going to be cut in September, we'll have a stimulus effect on the economy, which, by the way, as any economist will tell you, the immediate effect on interest rates and cutting interest rates doesn't get into the economy. It takes a little bit of time for that to happen. So even if they do it, people aren't going to feel it immediately. There's an opportunity there for the Trump campaign to take on the economy. The sooner they do it, the better. And he did get a start on Fox last night after her speech, talking about inflation, talking about groceries, talking about gas. Energy prices is another one. The plan by the left to push everyone into EVs, it's clearly not working with Ford cutting back. I mentioned to you 2 days ago, Ford cutting back its electric SUV, General Motors as well cutting back EV plans. More and more, it looks like it's a government boondoggle. Most people don't want them. They're not getting into them. People are intrigued by hybrids, but the all-electric vehicle route isn't working, and the hybrid route still requires gas. So energy prices are still something people have to deal with. Gas prices still something people have to deal with. All of that is to say, going full circle to the beginning of this show today, I still think this is Trump's race to lose. The issues still favor him. He is baked into the cake. People's views of Trump are baked in. It's the events that are not baked in, and events change things. And most of the events that could play out right now don't play out in the Democrats' favor. If Iran does attack Israel, particularly now that the DNC is over, it just adds an equilibrium imbalance to the Middle East. The Russia-Ukraine situation, Ukraine using our missiles to invade Russia, that could destabilize things further. China, Taiwan could destabilize things further. The situation in this hemisphere with the collapse of Haiti, the Venezuelan situation, do they invade Guyana? The economic situation, the fallout from international events. These things don't favor the Democrats right now. The external events, the wild cards, tend to favor Trump. And as I sit here talking to you guys, someone is knocking on the door of the room that I'm in doing this show. Oh boy, that's probably my sign that I should go to commercial break and see who's knocking on the hospital door. The cleaning crew, the answer to who is knocking on the door. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson. The cleaning crew was stopping by just to see if I need anything. Very nice people at this hospital. So if you're just tuning in, I'm in Jacksonville. I'm actually doing my show now in a nice little room. They got me set up at the hospital so I could do my show with you guys and then go do fundraising for Nemours Children's Hospital here in Jacksonville, Florida. But so at the end of the monologue, I hear this knock on the door, and it's the cleaning people just making sure I'm fine, need anything, what have you. Thank you to them. Very nice people down here. I got in this morning. It looked like it had rained a little bit, and there's rain in the forecast tonight. Flights on time, but it's been a wild several weeks since the gathering. I'm really looking forward to a 3-day weekend next week for Labor Day, although I got to be on the road. It's my daughter's birthday. So we're doing something this weekend, have some events next week with her actual birthday, and then going to see family over Labor Day weekend. A lot of travel, no rest for the weary. At some point, I'm going to go check myself into a golf resort and just hit golf balls for a few days by myself. Not anytime soon, though. There's so much on the campaign trail. I've got to be on the campaign trail. I got to be traveling. We will be hitting the road a little bit in the swing states. We've got a lot of affiliates in swing states, so should be good over the next couple of months. One of the things you do need to know, by the way, real politics here real quick, some polling has come out that shows North Carolina, Kamala Harris now ahead by several points. It's actually terrible pollster. Again, please don't freak out. Look at the polling average. Don't look at the individual polls. The particular pollster actually has a terrible track record in North Carolina itself. So calm down. I'll tell you when to, well, actually, I'm not going to tell you when to panic, because then I just get hate mail from you for, oh my gosh, why are you telling me to panic? So, but I will give you the lay of the land, and I'll tell you what's going on, whether you like it or not. I'm used to the hate mail. I got thick skin. I'm not actually fat. I got thick skin. I'm like a manatee. Just look at me. We have gotten to the point, honestly, where I wake up every morning and I think, so who sent me more hate mail today? The Trump supporters or the Harris supporters? All I'm trying to do is tell you what's going on. So many people just want to be told what they want to hear. It's got to be a wild ride, but I'm very blessed and really also fortunate to be asked to come do something like this fundraiser today for great kids program at this hospital. All right, we've got other stuff to talk about. There's plenty more at stake. I want to try to avoid the realpolitik if we can. But there's another issue for the Trump campaign to seize on. Oregon and now California have passed legislation that would allow illegal aliens to get government-funded down payments for homes. I wish I was making that up. Unfortunately, I'm not. It actually is a thing. I honestly, I heard the stories like, this can't be true, but it is actually true. And I've got the details on it when we come back. But speaking of interest rate cuts, we've still got banks out there in dire situation, community banks. A buddy of mine actually is a supporter of community banks and has been telling me about how the federal government is working to eliminate them. And it's wild. You got the interest rates the way we've got them. Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, and they've been warning people about a secret war on cash for some time. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from the secret war on cash, listen to get their free report. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. They can educate you on protecting your assets in their report, The Secret War on Cash. Now, what you want to do to get the report, it only takes about 15 minutes to read. It can save your retirement and finances. You get a copy completely for free by calling or texting 800-289-2646. The All-Out War on Cash includes digital currencies. It's growing, so get on the phone or text 800-289-2646. All you have to do is mention my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K. When you call or text 800-289-2646, the report is completely free. 800-289-2646, or go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, E-R-I-C-K. Message and data rates may apply. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here, across the nation, coming to you live from Jacksonville, Florida, my affiliate WOKV, actually in a hospital room here about in, 30 minutes, about to do a children's fundraiser for their children's hospital down here. Any of you interested in helping out, if you want to support a great cause with a great tax-deductible donation, you can go to WOKV.com and click on their Carathon tab and make a donation. It is a good cause. It's a great hospital. It's their 10th annual Carathon at Namor Children's Hospital, where I'm broadcasting from right now. I want to get to the illegal alien story, but I can't help myself because Philip put this in the stack of stuff. Panther sighting in Georgia from Georgia Outdoor Network, that a guy caught a panther, and it is clearly a panther on the trail cam. The tail and everything gives it away, and they are very skeptical of claims of panthers, and I get it. But y'all, I had this happen as longtime listeners know. This would have been 2012, and it happened like almost live on TV. I had to be on it with all people. Soledad O'Brien, good Lord. In 2012, I was on CNN still at the time before I moved over to Fox. Had to do like a 6 a.m. hit, and we had a dog at the time here, Odessa. And the dog went outside to use the bathroom and goes nuts. And I go out to see what's wrong with this dog, and it's up on a hill. And the neighbors are out of town. It's the summer, and the grass had grown tall. And the hair on the dog's back is standing up. So I go up to see it, and it's barking at this cat. And so I get the dog. That cat stood up, and it was a panther. Now, I know it was a panther. It was not a bobcat. It was not a lab. This panther stood up, and it had this long tail. And the tail looked like it had a mind of its own. The dog and I raced each other back into the house. And I ran upstairs to my wife, who was still asleep, and woke her up and said, there is a panther in the side yard. Now, side note, we have a lot of deer in our neighborhood, and we have coyotes in our neighborhood. And we've noticed that when the coyotes are around, you don't see the deer. When the deer are around, you don't see the coyotes. And my wife just randomly had commented a couple of days before the neighbor's cat had gone missing. And my wife said, this is the first time I can remember I haven't either seen the deer or heard the coyotes. I thought, yeah, that is odd. The neighbor's cat had gone missing. Another neighbor's dog had gone missing. Didn't think anything really about it. And then I tell my wife that I've seen this panther in the yard. And she says, oh, I know. I saw it last night. I was like, do what? She said she had gone out onto her front porch and she saw the panther walking down the road into the woods. And she thought, well, she had an Ambien and thought, oh, that's just a black lab. I'm seeing things. It's the Ambien. So she'd gone to bed and didn't tell me, no. This thing was a real panther. So I call a buddy of mine. He's like the only person to this day who truly believes me. He worked for the Department of Natural Resources in Georgia. He says, oh, yeah, if you call them, they're going to tell you they don't exist, just like armadillos. They'll tell you the armadillos don't exist in Georgia either. They now will admit there are armadillos. At the time, they're like, we don't have armadillos. So to this day, they're like, no. Now, what was so funny is that people in the area there, they would see it on like their motion sensor cameras. And so they're like, yes, finally people started believing me. And then it turned out someone got a picture of it on a golf course. It was up in a tree. And I felt very vindicated, but for a very long while until photos from people started coming out that they too had seen this black panther. And it was black, by the way. It wasn't like your standard golden or yellow cougar. It was a black panther. And finally people were like, okay, there is one. Now, what the Natural Resources Department will tell you is that they escaped from private captivity or something. And the buddy of mine who works for him says, well, of course they're going to tell people that. They don't want people going looking for one of these panthers because the panther's going to find you before you find the panther. You're going to die, not the panther. But occasionally now they do crop up. Now, someone has caught one. 2 recent trail camera pictures from rural Muskogee County, east of Columbus, Georgia, are compelling. The images were captured about an hour apart. Early morning of August 12th, the landowner, Bud Passmore, has a 180-acre tract along Highway 80 in sparsely populated Muskogee County. Jimmy Harper, Georgia Outdoor Network hunt advisor, hunts turkeys on the property with Bud. And Jimmy files the hunting reports for Harris County, a testament for how connected they are. And yeah, this appears to actually have been a panther sighting. Remarkable. Someone else has seen one. It's not just me. Okay, I can move on now to this wild story. So I didn't know that Oregon had done this, and now California is doing this. They're passing laws making illegal aliens eligible for state government down payments for housing. So first of all, take the illegal alien part of this. Did you know that Oregon and California, 2 states that do this, have housing shortages? And so the government solution to this is not build more houses. It's we will give people money to put a down payment on a house, which just exacerbates the problem and causes an increase in the prices of houses. Now, add into that, they're allowing illegal aliens to take part of this. Here's what's going on. The fact of the matter is, people on the left and the right are radicalizing each other based on positions. It's like, for example, people on the right decided they didn't like Drag Queen Story Hour. So what did the left do? The left started having more Drag Queen Story Hour. People on the left Don't like that the right says illegal aliens, so what do the right do? We double down on saying illegal alien, which, by the way, is perfectly fine to say. Only people on the left hate it. People on the right don't like that the left uses pronouns. What do people on the left do? They embrace pronouns. People on the right, like, we're too friendly to illegal alien populations in this country. We should crack down. So what does the left do? We're not going to crack down. We're going to give them money to buy houses in this country. It's absurd public policy. I mean, just on its face, it's absurd public policy. But the left is defining itself by what the right doesn't like. It's not really per se original thinking anymore. It's just the left defining itself by what the right is like. Now, this is also a reason why Gavin Newsom can't run for president. I know the right is obsessed with the idea of Gavin Newsom running for president. I don't know, and I know a lot of Democratic strategists in this country, very good people. You don't know them all. And every single one of them has told me that they find it absurd that people on the right think Gavin Newsom could run for president in this country and get elected. None of them believe that he is. The reason being, because of stuff like this. He's too far left. Remember the girl, there was a story that he got the girl in trouble with her manager at Target. He was watching people shoplift in Target and was asking the girl why that was happening. She's like, well, the governor allows it. And he's like, no, the governor does not. She's like, yeah, he does. If it's under $900, it's not a felony, so nobody enforces it around here. And he called over the manager to complain that she had insulted him. She didn't know he was the governor. By the way, she was right. The governor of California does not support a new proposition on the ballot in California that would get rid of that stupid law where it's $900 or less. It's a misdemeanor. You can't hold people responsible for it. It's a bizarre public policy position that he and the Speaker of the House in California and others have maintained to decriminalize essentially shoplifting for less than $900, because the result is you treat it like a misdemeanor. Police aren't going to pursue it, and the stores aren't going to, and so stores are going out of business. And now they want to give illegal aliens money to buy houses. This is why Gavin Newsom isn't going to get elected president of the United States in this country. That, and also now Kamala Harris is going to steal his thunder. I mean, here's the reality. There are Democrats in this country who are still convinced Donald Trump's going to win. And if he does, in 2 years, there's going to be blowback. The Democrats will sweep in the House and take the Senate, obstructing for 2 years. And in 2 years, when J.D. Vance runs to replace him, the Democrats will win. That's one of the reasons they have so aggressively defined J.D. Vance as early as they can. They want to make him as unlikable as possible now so that if Trump does get elected, J.D. Vance is radioactive in 4 years. The problem is, of course, Kamala Harris could win. I think it's more likely Trump wins because of the issues, but Kamala Harris could win. Donald Trump's an undisciplined candidate. She's clearly more disciplined than him these days. The media wants to help her win. They're doing everything they can. She's avoiding asking tough questions. That puts off a Gavin Newsom for 8 years. He's going to age out. He's term limited in California. No one's going to care about him then. But also, it's stuff like this. Gavin Newsom can't win the presidency because of his lack of popularity and his progressive positions. And Republicans, I mean, he gets a lot of exposure. The media talks him up, and the media loves the guy. He's going to be the Democratic nominee. No, because, I mean, again, even moderate Democrats think the guy's too progressive. Now, of course, it's kind of an academic exercise because Harris is the nominee. And if Harris wins, there's going to be 8 years of her. Walz is not going to run. He's too old. He'll be too old to run. But it'll open the door to somebody. And it's not going to be Newsom by then because he'll have aged out. He will not be a governor. People will have forgotten. They'll go to the new and shiny. But this issue is still going to be there. People buying houses in this country who aren't even supposed to be in this country. I think it's going to radicalize more people on the issue of illegal immigration, and it's actually going to help the right because people kind of understand the absurdity of the proposition that you can come into this country illegally and the government will give you money to buy a house when you're not even supposed to be in this country. I thought it was made up, but it's not made up. Oregon does it, and now California does it. In fact, California is specifically amending legislation to make it clear that someone's status in this country is no barrier to getting the money from the government. It is clearly to help illegal aliens get property in this country at a time property values have soared and there's a scarcity of housing for legal immigrants and citizens of this country. That's an alienating idea that the left is pursuing because they're pursuing policies to own the right as the way the right is trying to own the left. And the only people it helps are the people who aren't supposed to be here. It hurts everybody else. That's a winning argument for our side. Now, we need to talk about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, the 3-pack. It's on sale right now at EdenPureDeals.com. If you go to EdenPureDeals.com and you put in ERIC3, ERICK3, you can get the Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for less than $200 and save $200. You can start cleaning the air in your house, but more importantly, you can deodorize the air in your house. Now, I carried one with me to Jacksonville. I had to stay in a hotel last night in Atlanta. I flew down today. This morning I'm flying back tonight, so I don't have my bag with me, but I got it in my car because I had it in the hotel last night. Now, I didn't need it, but it's very highly portable. I can hold it in my hand. I didn't bring it with me for the rental car because the rental car, I figured it'd be fine. I could put up with it or not. But I've used it in a rental car to wipe out smoke odors. I've used it in a hotel room to wipe out smoke odors. You can use it to wipe out dirty diaper odors, litter box odors, pet odors, you name it. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack. You get 3 of them, upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your RV, your travel bag, wherever you need it. You save $200. You get them for less than $200. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com. Eden like the Garden of Eden, pure as the driven snow. EdenPureDeals.com and put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. You'll get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. You'll save $200. You'll clean the air in your house. You can thank me later. EdenPureDeals.com, discount code ERIC3. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. Glad to have you guys with me. About to go do this fundraiser for the Children's Hospital here in Jacksonville. Thanks for hanging out with me on your Friday afternoon. My buddy Ryan is a climatologist, meteorologist, a brilliant guy. He's got like a doctorate and all that good stuff. And he's noting that the existential threat to humanity that climate change is didn't really come up at the DNC. There were no climate protesters, no articles in left-leaning corporate media, very little mention. In fact, one of the headlines in the New York Times was Harris goes light on climate policy. Green leaders are okay with that. And it's because they know that they've got to dance around it because of Pennsylvania. This is from Semaphore, quote, "Climate is a third rail for the Harris campaign. Anything she might say about the need to curb fossil fuel use risks alienating swing voters, especially in critical oil and gas states like Pennsylvania. Climate activists are following the campaign's clues and cues." In fact, this is from Semaphore. Voters who really care about climate aren't likely to vote for Donald Trump, so there's little need for Harris to sell herself as the pro-climate candidate. And talking about the clean energy as an economic imperative rather than an environmental one is not only true, but helps insulate Harris from criticism from the Trump campaign that she's a dangerous radical. It adds up to the same thing anyway, says Peter Maysmith, Senior Vice President of Campaigns of the League of Conservation Voters. It may not be those words per se, but it doesn't matter. That's it. Look, they know which side she's on to the extent they can lie to voters, which, I mean, her campaign is essentially based on lying to voters about her positions. She's on the record saying she wants to ban fracking. She has not come out and said she supports the expansion of fracking. She has not come out and said she supports fracking. She has not come out and said she no longer wants to ban it. An anonymous staffer sent out a note to the media saying, tell people she no longer believes this. But we haven't heard it from her. We have not heard it from her. And that's the important fact. We haven't heard it from her. Many of these positions we have not heard from her. We're hearing from other people claiming it's her position that gives her plausible deniability. So to the extent Republicans sees on this, look, she's on video on CNN saying she wants to use the government to curb your consumption of red meat. use her words against her. Anonymous staffers to newspapers does not compare to Kamala Harris's own words. She's avoiding talking about these issues because she's scared of losing swing state voters in places like Pennsylvania. Now, side note, buddy of mine texted me a little worried. He said, why are the polls so close in Texas? Y'all, follow the money. The Harris campaign nor the Democratic Party are spending any money in Texas. Why? Because their internal polls do not show that it's a close race there. The academic polling in Texas tends to be pretty bad and tends to have a real bias for the Democrats. Remember, everybody thought Ted Cruz was going to lose 6 years ago. Everybody thought Trump could lose Texas in 2020. In fact, the state has shifted to the GOP. Hispanic voters in Texas have become more Republican since then. I don't think they're going to be suddenly converting to Kamala Harris supporters. So calm down, follow the money, keep your head down, but also follow the money on this climate issue. The radical left, the environmentalists, they're pouring money into Kamala Harris's campaign. They're doing everything they can to help Kamala Harris win. I would follow the money on this issue too. That Kamala Harris is actually pretty progressively radical on the issue of energy production in this country. She has deep disdain for the fossil fuel industry. She pursued them in California. She will pursue them nationally. If you're in a state that has energy concerns, you're worried about the cost of energy, you should be worried about Kamala Harris becoming president of the United States because of her previously stated positions that she herself has not retracted. It's actually a good catch for my buddy Ryan that it didn't come up. You know, they say we've got 10 years to save the planet. There's an existentialism about it. And yet they didn't bring it up. They care about that issue so much that they chose not to bring it up. They spent their time talking about killing kids instead. The number one issue for the Democratic Party, a party of death, is to give people the power to kill their children. Remarkable how far we've come from safe, legal, and rare, isn't it, in the Democratic Party? This is not the party of Bill Clinton, that's for sure. All right, I got to go do this fundraiser now. Your prayers appreciated, stamina to get home tonight safely. If you want to support it, you can go to WOKV.com. That's the radio station I'm on in Jacksonville, and their team doing this. You guys have a great weekend. I will talk to y'all on Monday.